If you are the type of producer who likes to jam and layer things together to find inspiration, or maybe you're just like a sample fiend, I've got an incredible plugin to show you, and that is Egoist by SugarBytes. I like using it because it's kind of an all-in-one plugin. Like, it's got a powerful slicer, it's got a unique bass sequencer, and then it's also got programmable effects that make it really easy to make these spicy little variations within all the patterns that you build, and you could easily just make a song start to finish just from one sitting. So let's take a look at how it works and how it can fit into your workflow. So here's what the Egoist plugin looks like. And you can see on the left, we've got 4 tabs, and this is the 4 main sections of what this plugin can do. The first tab that we'll focus on is the slicer tab. Now you can just drag and drop like you normally would with most sampling plugins like this, and it will automatically create some slices for us. Now we've got some familiar controls here. We can change the sensitivity of where the slices are in relation to the amplitude. We can also make some, and you'll see this dice icon. You can see it here as well, and here on the right, and also at the bottom here. And you'll see this all over the plugin. And this is one of the main things that I really like about it, is that you can randomize all kinds of stuff within the plugin, which facilitates creativity and makes things that you wouldn't even think to do. So of course we've got options to change the overall pitch of the sample or of each of the slices. We can change the length, we can change the decay and hold. But also, once you get to this far right section, this is one of my favorite elements. You can actually normalize each of the slices so that they're roughly the same level. You get a visual indication of what's going on here when you increase this. And this is really nice for melodic loops, especially ones that have a high dynamic range. It's kind of annoying to have to play around with the velocities to keep all of the slices the same level. So it's really a nice thing to have control over. So within Egoist, there's kind of 2 different workflows, and the default one is actually to have your MIDI keyboard not control each of the slices, but to control the patterns. So you can see that when I start at C0 and go to each of the keys within that octave, it'll change all these patterns here at the bottom. So if we wanted to start with pattern 1, you can see that when I held down the note, it played through this whole entire sequence. And if you're familiar with sequencers, you'll be familiar with this whole workflow. Now what we can do is press this little X button, and it will equally divide each of the slices to each 16th note in the sequence. Where I think it gets really fun is when you start randomizing the order of each of these slices here. So if I press this dice button, see what we get. You can also randomize the pitch, and you can even randomize, the attack and decay times as well as the level too, if you want something even more crazy. Now, the other sort of traditional way that you can work too is if you go to the bottom left here and you click this little mini keyboard icon, you can control each of the slices with your keyboard starting at C3. So if you want to play something in a specific order instead of what the sequence is giving you or what you program into the sequence, you can totally do that. So I'm recording right now, and if we just went like, we can totally have it play back like that too. So that's a nice way to get some inspiration with just kind of a melodic loop. Another cool thing that you can do is you can add a percussion loop here. And let's say we wanted to increase the sensitivity all the way and just get these hits here. So here's what the percussion loop sounds like on its own. Let's say, we've got a drum loop and we wanted to add some stuff on top. It's kind of a cool way to get some different variations. And this is also where you can go crazy with the pitch variations that you can introduce with the random, dice icons. I really like to do this with percussive hits. So if you had a drum loop like this, so it's a fun way to add all those variations. Instead of having to place everything by hand, you can just let randomness do a lot of the work for you and just have fun with that. A real classic workflow here too is to have a little drum loop that you chop up, and you can totally do the same thing that we did previously with the melodic loop. But I'm just gonna have this looping for right now so I can show you this next tab, which is the bass tab. And you can get a cool little bass line going. So let's say we were working in, let's say it was E major. Okay, so we'll pick our scale first. So you can see that we've selected a sawtooth wave here. We can't hear anything because nothing has been sequenced just yet. Now we can do that by just clicking this dice icon, okay? And it's gonna start playing in E3. So actually let's move this down to E1. So Egoist comes up with some cool rhythms for you, and you can even make a little bass melody too if you click this dice with the little musical note icon, the quarter note, okay? And it'll come up with a bass line that's within the E major scale for you. So that could be something that you use as a seed for another song. And you can, of course, add your own little notes here too. So you can hold down the left mouse button, it'll cycle through each of the notes you can have. And where those blocks kind of bend is like a little bit of a glide mode between each of the notes. You can also click and choose any of these that you want to add as well. So if you wanted a note there. A cool thing to mention too is that if you want to mess around with any of these parameters on the go, they're all automatable, okay? So if you're in Ableton, an easy way to do that is just to click this little arrow at the bottom left and click configure, and you can change any one of these, like the cutoff, for example. If you're the type of person who likes to do everything within the same plugin, you can totally make a little beat here too. So if I add some hi-hats here. And you can change what kit you're using with these arrows here. But if we wanted to stick with the modular kit, you can even change the kit within the kit, right? So you get all kinds of different sounds by dragging this up. You can change the kick, snare, and hat all at the same time. Now we've already got some drums going, so I'm going to go up to the top here and mute the beat so that we don't hear exactly what we programmed. Now if we go back to our melodic loop here that we've chopped up, this is where it gets really fun, is when you start using the effects tab here on the left. And if you've ever used Effectrix, it got a very similar workflow where you sequence out each of the effects and they kind of turn on and off based on which blocks are present on the division of time that you've selected. So the x-axis is time, as always, and then the y-axis is going to be each of the effects that you can use, which are all laid out for you right here. Okay, and you can also randomize this, so you can get all kinds of cool stuff going. So you can see we've got the filter going the entire time. So what we're gonna do is head up to the top, right? And we're going to make sure that effects is on, because that activates the effects, and you can actually do this on the fly if you like to do, you know, a live performance kind of thing. Okay, so let's play this. Let's actually randomize it, see if we can get some cool sounds going. So as you can see, it's easy to get crazy, and you can even add these effects on top of the bass sound that you made, or you can add it on top of the beat that you programmed in the other tab. So it's really fun to get your hands dirty with all these different effects. And it might sound a little bit crazy to you now, but if you kind of add some simple stuff on top, it will help tame how crazy it actually is. And you can even slow down the time divisions too if you want to make it a little bit less hectic. And maybe you even want to take that loop too and make a little small variation. It's really fast to do that as well. So if we're in this current pattern, which is 2, so if you go to the bottom right here and you see these grayed out icons, one of them looks like a copy icon, which is exactly that. It copies. Okay, so we copy that and we'll go to pattern 3 and we'll click this sort of download icon, and it immediately pastes everything that we've got in pattern 2 onto pattern 3. Now this is really nice because we can create a little variation, right? So on pattern 3, now that we've pasted everything in, 1 from pattern 2, we can create another variation and say it's like this. Now, if we wanted to alternate between those two different variations we did, we can easily do that by going to part, which kind of arranges the patterns together, and then song arranges the parts together. So we can drag the slider down here so we can play the full length of pattern 2 and the full length of pattern 3 here. So it'll alternate between those two. So now when we play this, so you can see, you just sit here all day until you've, well, lost your whole day to the creative process. So all in all, it's a really fun tool to build beats from the ground up, or just, you know, have fun jamming for long periods of time, sometimes too long, right? And by the way, if you've got an iPad, you can download this plugin and play with it on the go, which I would do if I had an iPad. So go check out this plugin, you can see for yourself just how fun it is to use. All right, until next time, you guys know the drill. Happy music making, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. Peace.